In the heart of 1990s New Orleans, a city known for its jazz and culture.
Shit, I'm bringing a video to you. This is about a gangster from New Orleans called Richard Pena. Man, when I first moved to New Orleans, man, this man's name was ringing, man. I moved there in 99. And man, shit, he was he was already in jail by the time I moved there, but you were still hearing remnants of people that was involved in this indictment with the feds.
Another rhythm pulsed beneath the surface. The rhythm of crime, corruption, and power. This is the story of Richard Pena, a drug kingpin who didn't just rule the streets. He infiltrated the police, took over the music industry, and built an empire of fear that still haunts the city to this day. In the late 20th century, New Orleans was facing a growing crisis. Violent crime and rampant drug trafficking had taken hold of the city, pushing it into a downward spiral. Deep-rooted economic inequalities and decades of corruption created fertile ground for organized crime to thrive. In the 1980s and well into the 90s, narcotics like cocaine and heroin flooded the city.
It was flooding the NO,
turning
baby.
New Orleans into a major hub for international drug trafficking.
Hell yeah.
With its strategic location along the Mississippi River and one of the busiest ports in the world, New Orleans was the perfect spot for smugglers to move drugs through legitimate shipments. Corrupt officials often looked the other way as drugs from Central and South America made their way through the city's infrastructure. For many who felt left out of the economy, the drug trade became a lifeline, and entire neighborhoods, especially in the lower 9th Ward and Central City, became centers for illegal activity. As the drug trade grew, so did the violence that came with it.
Straight up.
Rival gangs turned neighborhoods into battlegrounds.
Straight up, man.
Fighting over territory, debts, and control of the lucrative.
New Orleans is one of the worst places where you want to have drugs, money. Because it's a whole bunch of, the projects, when I first moved to New Orleans, the MILF, the Calio, all this is right around one another, man. All this is all right around one another, a couple of blocks, man, maybe 6, 7 blocks, man, from one another. So, man, when the murder took place, man, the murder was all over. I mean, when I first moved out to New Orleans, it was crazy, man.
Lucrative drug market. By the early 90s, New Orleans had earned the grim title of murder capital of the United States, as disputes over drugs led to countless lives being taken. Kingpins like Richard Pena began to establish their control over the city,
Richard boy,
using force and fear to maintain power. In response to the escalating violence, both local and federal law enforcement agencies tried to crack down on the drug problem. However,
man, that's the only way you're going to get the business done in New Orleans, because, man, if you not, man, if you soft, man, they coming for it, man. They hungry. They got wolves out there. They got head busters in the NO, man. So, man, if you going to play around that, you better be ready. You better be ready. Believe that.
However, their efforts were often thwarted by the widespread corruption within the New Orleans Police Department, NOPD, with some officers accepting bribes from drug dealers and even participating in the illegal trade themselves. This corruption not only made it harder to address the drug crisis, but also eroded public trust in law enforcement. The conditions that allowed drug trafficking to thrive were deeply tied to the city's racial and economic inequalities. Poor black communities bore the brunt of the drug epidemic, as families were torn apart by addiction and incarceration. Years of underinvestment in education, infrastructure, and jobs left many young people with few options, and the drug trade became an escape from harsh reality.
Man, that was all in major cities. That just wasn't in New Orleans. That was in Memphis. That was in Oakland, man. You name your, that was in Baltimore. I mean, it was just a drug pandemic, if you want to call it that, man. But we all know where it started from, the Iran-Contra, up in California. But that's a whole nother story. But what I'm telling you is this went on around America.
This further fueled the city's cycle of violence, trapping entire generations in its grip. By the late 1990s, federal intervention, tougher sentencing laws, and efforts to clean up police corruption began to show results. Richard Pena, one of the most infamous figures to emerge from this era, would come to represent both the power and the devastation that the drug trade brought to New Orleans. His story is a reflection of the larger issues that plagued the city during one of its darkest chapters. Richard Pena's climb to the top of New Orleans' criminal underworld was no accident. It was the result of calculated moves and ruthless ambition. Born in the Dominican Republic around 1965,
the
Pena
DR.
arrived in New Orleans via Puerto Rico, where he quickly made a name for himself. By the early 1990s, he was no longer just another street-level dealer. He was the mastermind behind a drug empire that funneled massive amounts of cocaine into the city, controlling entire neighborhoods from the shadows.
Straight up.
What truly set Pena apart was his ability to forge alliances with some of the most dangerous drug cartels in Houston, Miami, and Mexico. These relationships allowed him to move up to 300 kilos of cocaine into New Orleans every month.
Damn.
Pena's network stretched across the city, with distribution hubs hidden in public housing complexes. His strategy was simple, but effective. Violence, intimidation, and corruption kept him untouchable, ensuring that no rival dared challenge him. Behind the scenes, Pena used
these
a series
let me tell you something. A lot of times, man, I don't know. This is my first time watching it with you guys, but a lot of times these drug dealers don't have nothing but at least, man, 4 to 6 years at the most of running what they want to run. They made millions of dollars, but it was in a short time of span. Most of the big drug dealers that you see, when you see these kind of documentaries, most of the time it's just a 4 to 6 year run, you know?
of legitimate businesses to clean his dirty money. From Gator Collision Center to Sheska Records, his front companies served as perfect masks for his vast drug operations. His promotion company, Altogether Entertainment, even hosted major events like Tupac's 1996 concert at the Superdome. To the public, Pena appeared to be a successful businessman, but in reality, these ventures were all part of a much larger money laundering scheme.
Well,
one of Pena's most dangerous weapons in his arsenal was the corruption he spread within the New Orleans Police Department.
Straight up.
David Singleton, one of his trusted enforcers, was a police officer who carried out Pena's most violent orders. Pena's ability to control law enforcement gave him an edge over competitors, ensuring that his empire stayed intact, while his enemies disappeared without a trace. How did Richard Pena gain access to running the New Orleans Police Department as muscle for his criminal empire? The answer to this question lies in the deep corruption that plagued the NOPD during the 90s. Pena's influence reached into the heart of law enforcement, allowing him to operate with virtual impunity.
Damn.
But how did he manage to corrupt an entire police force and use it as a tool for his criminal operations?
He had that money. Yeah, man, what you mean how he did it? He had money. When you got money, shit, you get shit done.
Richard Pena's criminal empire wasn't built just on drugs. It thrived on a foundation of corruption and unchecked violence. In a city where law enforcement was often compromised, Pena found allies within the very institution meant to stop him.
Shit.
One of his most notorious associates was David Singleton, a New Orleans police officer who became Pena's enforcer and was instrumental in keeping his criminal enterprise running smoothly.
Shit. Give him
Singleton,
that money.
a veteran of the New Orleans Police Department, was no stranger to scrutiny. In fact, he had already been under federal investigation before his involvement with Pena. In '91, Singleton had been acquitted on charges of shaking down drug dealers, but his real dark deeds would come to light years later. Working directly for Pena, Singleton carried out brutal tasks that eliminated threats to the drug lord's operation, all while wearing a badge. In one of the most notorious incidents, Singleton used his position as a police officer to kidnap Richard Curtis, a rival of Pena's, in 1993. Curtis was unalive shortly after, a chilling reminder of what happened to those who crossed Pena.
So look, check this out, this is crazy. Singleton would go get these guys, arrest them, and bring it to old Richie Boy. And Richie Boy would then in turn go kill him. This is crazy, man. This is sick, man. I'm telling you, man.
Singleton's first time orchestrating such an operation. In 1994, court documents revealed that Singleton had also kidnapped another one of Pena's enemies, Navari Harvey. Harvey endured days of torture before being strangled and buried in a shallow grave outside of Slidell.
Days of torture.
But perhaps the most disturbing part of Singleton's loyalty to Pena was his role in covering up another crime in 1997. Robin Petra, a woman suspected of being a government informant, was targeted by Pena. Singleton played a key role, using his authority to deliver Petra's address to Pena.
Killing women too,
After Petra was fatally shot outside her home,
damn.
Singleton even responded to the scene, pretending to investigate the murder. Witnesses described the shooter's car as a white Buick with a broken taillight, and the very next day, Singleton tipped off the gunman to fix the vehicle, further covering their tracks. Singleton eventually flipped, cooperating with authorities in exchange for a reduced sentence.
Come on, hey, man. If you get police on your team, if you playing that type of dangerous ass game, the police is the laws. So anytime it go down, man, they getting themselves out. They gonna cooperate, man. They already a police officer. They don't stand by no code. They just there for the money. You know, and once there's no more money, your ass is grass. Shit.
Cooperation helped bring down Pena's empire, but it came at a steep cost. For many, the leniency Singleton received was seen as an outrage given the extent of his crimes. Lori White, Pena's attorney, famously criticized Singleton's deal, saying it was outrageous given his long history in law enforcement and the unprosecuted crimes that were revealed only after the plea bargain. Pena's ability to leverage corrupt officials like Singleton kept him in control of New Orleans' drug trade for years. As Pena's criminal empire flourished, his ambitions expanded beyond the drug trade. But how did he make the leap into the world of music, turning legitimate entertainment ventures into fronts for his illicit operations? What drew him to this new frontier, and how did he use it to further mask his criminal empire?
He a hustler. He a hustler.
Richard Pena's rise wasn't just limited to the streets of New Orleans. His ambition stretched beyond the drug trade, as he sought to legitimize his wealth and influence by infiltrating the city's vibrant music scene. By the mid-90s, Pena had established several business fronts, but none were as prominent as Sheska Records and Altogether Entertainment. These ventures became key pieces in his money laundering operation.
I don't know, they say, when I moved to New Orleans, word was on the street, allegedly, they told me he the one that helped Master P. I mean, I don't know if I'm lying behind the people that was telling me that. It was No Limit Records. I'm just saying, that's what I heard,
providing a facade of respectability while allowing him to continue his criminal enterprises unnoticed. Sheska Records, a small but ambitious label, was Pena's way into the music industry. He used the label not only to fund local talent, but to launder the vast sums of money flowing in from his drug empire. Artists and producers came and went, often unaware that their careers were being funded by Pena's drug operations. The success of the label was not measured by record sales, but by its ability to mask the dirty money being funneled through it. Pena's ambitions grew when he established Altogether Entertainment.
He making so much money, man. He trying to clean up some money, man. He trying to clean up some money, man. He don't care if he taking the loss. If he taking the loss, he not going to say he took the loss, man. Especially when you dealing with concerts and anything that's dealing with some cash money. If he taking a loss, he not going to say he took a loss. He going to say like he made money. That way he can legitimize his money. A body shop. That messing with insurances. You dig what I'm telling you? He was making money where he was getting businesses where he could hit licks at, because he was making so much money.
Concert promotion company. Altogether Entertainment became involved in organizing some of the biggest concerts in New Orleans, including the now infamous 1996 Superdome performance featuring rap legend Tupac Shakur. For many, it was just another major concert event. But behind the scenes, it was part of a broader scheme to legitimize Pena's earnings and expand his influence within the music scene. Though he was often hidden in the background, Pena's fingerprints were all over these events. His connection to the music industry blurred the lines between legitimate business and organized crime.
Pena, he was an old school gangster. He played the background. He never was no flashy cars. He wasn't out there, man, when you on Front Street, he always played the background. That's why his nickname was Ghost, man. You know what I mean? Before the Ghost on Power, they used to call him the Ghost, man. You know what I mean?
Promoters, club owners, and even some artists unknowingly became part of his operation, benefiting from the lavish sums of money he pumped into the industry. Despite rumors swirling about Pena's involvement with major labels like No Limit Records, no concrete evidence ever tied him directly to the larger company.
That's what I heard.
Still, the presence of his influence was undeniable. At its core, Pena's involvement in the music industry was about more than just laundering money. It was about power. He understood that the entertainment industry offered more than just profit.
Yeah.
It was a way to elevate his status and extend his reach. While his operations continued in the shadows, the allure of fame and celebrity provided a shield from suspicion. Concerts, clubs, and record deals all became pieces of his empire. But as with every part of Pena's operation, his foray into the music industry was not without violence. Rival promoters and business partners who crossed him often found themselves disappearing under mysterious circumstances. The same ruthlessness Pena employed on the streets to control the drug trade carried over into the entertainment world, ensuring that his authority was never questioned. Although no one was able to prove any dealings with Master P, he did find himself in a situation with two other No Limit soldiers.
See? Cain and Abel.
By the mid-90s, Richard Pena's influence in New Orleans had extended beyond just drugs and the music industry.
Matter of fact, they got
his reach began to entangle local celebrities, including the rap duo Cain and Abel, who were rising stars in the city's hip-hop scene. Known for their association with No Limit Records, the twin brothers gained attention not only for their music but also for their connections to Pena's criminal empire. What appeared to be a promising music career was soon overshadowed by their alleged involvement in drug-related activities that would lead to their downfall. Cain and Abel, whose real names are Daniel and David Garcia, were accused of participating in Pena's drug trafficking network. The brothers had ties to Pena through New Orleans' music industry, particularly during the time when Pena...
I heard, like what I'm telling you, if I'm lying behind other people. You know, I heard that they wasn't getting it direct from Old Rich. They was getting it from some of his boys that they was cool with. You dig what I'm telling you? And they got caught up in the indictment on the phone, and different people said, time to time, they would put it in their head and they was hustling too. So they was getting their hands dirty, Cain and Abel. You know what I mean? So, you know, when you hang around these cats, man, and the feds come in, man, the feds kind of trying to make a case on the big wheel. So anybody they could catch up in the net, they gonna catch up in the net, man. And when they catch him up in the net, they gonna try to get him to turn on old boy, you know. And a lot of people turned on him.
Pena was using his record labels and concert promotion companies to launder drug money. While Cain and Abel were never considered key players in Pena's organization, they became linked to his empire through their association with figures deeply embedded in the local criminal landscape. In 1999, Cain and Abel were arrested on federal drug charges, accused of conspiring to distribute cocaine alongside Pena's network. The case against them was built on their connection to Pena, as federal authorities began to focus not only on dismantling his drug operations, but also on investigating those connected to him through the entertainment industry. The charges alleged that the brothers had knowledge of Pena's drug trafficking activities and were involved in distributing cocaine. Their music career, which had been steadily gaining traction, came to a screeching halt as they faced years in federal court battling the charges. As the trial unfolded, it became clear that the federal government was using the case against Cain and Abel to expose the full extent of Pena's influence in New Orleans. The rap duo, however,
I don't think they got
maintained their innocence, arguing that they had been unfairly targeted because of their proximity to Pena's associates in the music business. Despite their defense, the evidence was enough to convince a jury that their involvement with Pena was more than just coincidence. In 2000, Cain and Abel took a plea deal, admitting to lesser charges.
See, I was in New Orleans at that time. 2000, I was in New Orleans, so I caught the tail end of everything that was going on with them. You know what I mean? When I moved there, that's what everybody was talking about. I caught the tail end when they went to jail. I moved to New Orleans in '99, and they got sentenced in 2000. Now this was before that. They was doing their thing in between '94 and '97. You know, something like that.
Charges of drug conspiracy in exchange for reduced sentences. Each brother was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison.
See, they didn't get that much time.
Their story became yet another chapter in the broader saga of Richard Pena's empire, a story of how the lines between the streets, the music industry, and organized crime in New Orleans had blurred. The downfall of Cain and Abel marked the beginning of the end for Pena's influence in New Orleans' music scene.
Yeah.
Federal investigators
See,
continued
after
to
that,
chip away at his
Cash
empire,
Money started coming
using
up,
every
man.
connection, no
Master
matter how
P.
seemingly small, to bring down the larger criminal organization he had built. The case against the brothers also highlighted how deeply the drug trade had infiltrated the city's entertainment industry, and how even rising stars weren't immune to the consequences of their ties to the underworld.